Hello, EnderSword here again with another replay, I believe, from Silver League this time as well. We've got YunAlescA here, our Zerg, who sent in this replay. So we'll be looking at his point of view during the game. His opponent for this will be the Terran DerFrodo, who's asking what league YunAlescA is in. I know that DerFrodo is in Silver League. I was unable to find out exactly what YunAlescA was, but figure somewhere in that ballpark. So what we're going to be focusing on during this game is, number one, scouting. So in the early part of the game in particular, but also throughout, whether there's enough scouting information by YunAlescA and whether he has enough information to properly make counters and make what he needs to make and proceed in a strategic way, or whether there's just not enough information there. Number two will be Larvae Injects during the game. There's often a lot of time there where production is missed, larvae are sitting on the ground, and queens just aren't active enough in what they're doing. I'll also mention creep spread at a few points throughout this, which are kind of a subcomponent of that. And number three is planning for counterattacks. When you go to make aggressive movement, in this case it will be mutalisks, make sure that you are still defended at home, in addition to be making these offensive attacks. Often by making a strong offensive attack, you end up forcing your opponent to simply all in against you because they've been harassed so much they feel too behind. So make sure that you are in fact defended at home when you go to launch these assaults, and that you don't get caught trying to pull back and fight with mutas as your main composition of army, or some other harassing unit if you're another race. So we look here, he's gone for the early hatchery, he got gas up, went to 100, pulled it off so that he could have Zergling speed done, or started. That is good. As we've seen in some previous games, just don't forget to put it back on gas for when you need. A lot of people do pull it off at that 100, that's great. It's strategic use of the resources that you have. Then just don't forget to put it back on. Don't get caught up in what you're doing, and just don't forget. Basically, is the point there. So we see pretty good development in the economy at the moment. He's just droning ahead. He's certainly taking a lead economically. But from a scouting point of view, he has yet at the 6-minute mark to go to really even 100% determine which base the Terran is in. He's just now getting an overlord down to the lower base, and he'll see shortly, okay, he's not there, so he must be up here. Scouting is not just determining where your opponent is. You have to have that early scout actually in to see their base, to see what they are doing, and even once he determines where they are here, he doesn't actually poke up at all to determine what's going on until he sees a Hellion come down and drive him out. This would be good information to have. Terran can be doing a lot of scary things in the first 7 minutes. He could be trying to get to Cloak Banshees. He could be doing a ton of Hellions. He could be preparing a Hellion drop. He could be doing a multiple racks all in against you. There's a lot of things they can be doing, so make sure that you do know what is actually happening, and don't just scout with your overlords. They're too slow. They're a good backup to scouting. It's a good, might as well use them, but don't only use them, or you're not going to get a lot of that early information. In this case, our early information is, oh, there was a pretty quick expansion, and there's not a ton of defense around. So this could have actually been exploited. Instead of being scary, this is not scary at all. He could have actually gone very heavy military and simply stopped all this and really punished the Terran for taking this early base. Also back in the main here, the Terran is going heavy factory, but YunAlescA is unaware of this. So when you do see that information from poking up here, he saw a Hellion, he saw bunkers going down, saw an early command center, and could tell from the bunker that there are only Marines inside it. So you have to ask yourself, well, where's the gas being used? And then prepare to brace for that. You'd want to ideally send an overlord into your opponent's base so that you can actually find out what is going on. You do often just have to sacrifice an overlord into it. It's well worth it if you get a lot of information going on. Later on, you can make it an overseer and instead drop a changeling in, but you have to know what's happening in there if you're going to respond appropriately. But at this point, given that there's a lack of gas, you could be somewhat worried. Maybe there's cloaked banshees coming out. Maybe there's a lot of tanks. Maybe there's Thors coming out. Maybe he's getting a lot of early medevacs. You just don't really know what's happening here, so you have to respond accordingly back home. But we see that there's no detection out, so and there's no anti-air in general other than the queens. So you would want to find a way to account for that risk, knowing that there's a lot of gas that seems to be missing. Where is it and what's it going into? Just keep that in mind when you are scouting. In terms of the macro mechanics, we can see that through a lot of the game, Injects are not being hit. He does have one going here, and it is good to see that he's getting a third base. It's a little harder for me to understand one going and two not. They're just now starting. And then this one goes off. Try and get them cycled together. That way you really only have to remember once every so often. So, just every 40 seconds you do them all, and then you don't have to worry about it. Whereas if you've got them going in piecemeal, you're going to remember one and forget one and remember one and forget one all over the place, because you have to check it every 10 seconds or else you're going to miss them all. So try not to get in that habit. In terms of just defending himself at the moment, there's not a ton out there right now. He was teching hard to get to these Mutalisks, and he's going to turn his production into Mutalisks fairly strongly at this point. But this Roach army with a few Lings mixed in is not really strong if the Terran had decided to make a push against them. There's enough Marines here and enough tanks here that he could have made a strong effort against this. So as you're teching to something, don't get caught up in what you want to do and saving money for what you want to do unless you think that you're adequately defended on the ground. You have to always be asking yourself, if my opponent was to just push right now with everything they had, would I be able to hold this? And if the answer is no, then odds are you've either tech too hard, haven't been producing enough, or have been neglecting your economy or something like that. So always make sure that you are in fact defended at home before you commit a lot of resources to something like a mutaball like this. He does come in here, target firing down the turret, target firing down the worker making the turret, and ultimately harassing the worker line. That was a good initial to that. Here, however, he kind of meanders around a few targets until the Marines come in, doesn't know if he wants to engage those or not, plays around with the depot, the turret. This is just a bit more indecisive than you want to be. Knowing that these two bases are so close together, when you see those Marines start to come up, just immediately swing over to the other mineral line. That's where you're going to do the most damage. Just a second or two in one of those mineral lines can take out 3, 4, 5 SCVs and pull them back over. And then you go back over to the first one and pull them back over. So play those against each other. When you just see him start to come up, the SCVs have kind of moved out of the way anyway. Just swing right over to the other base until you see something that really drives you out. Try not to be indecisive. It's often that very first muta attack that does the most damage, even though it's when you have the least. Just that first few seconds in each mineral line just decimates everything. And it's not until later here that you then force a bunch of turrets. Not usually a good idea to just attack into them without a specific goal in mind. And in here, you don't want to be fighting with this few against a repairing turret. You may kill 100 or 200 minerals worth of stuff, but you're losing 100 gas every time one of these goes down. Part of the mutaball is getting your numbers really high, so you don't want to just be losing 1, 2 at a time here and there unless you're getting a lot back for it. Again, checking back at home, it is good. We see an inject there and an inject there, but again, one is missing. And we've got a lot of just kind of larva sitting on the ground at the various bases. It's not a money thing at the moment. There's plenty of money, and it's not a supply thing either. He's not supply capping himself. He's just leaving them. So in addition to remembering those actual injections in syncing them up, as I said, just make sure that you're actually then producing out of them. So make sure all your hatches are linked together, that you're constantly checking, do I have larvae available? And if I do, what am I spending it on? And get them out immediately. I think the mistake that he is making here is he's focused on making Mutalisks, and now switching into Corruptors probably to go Broodlord later on, is because he's making Mutalisks and Corruptors, which need gas, he's only making those units, and even though minerals are at 2,000, when he goes to hit, okay, I want to make a bunch of mutas, and the gas runs out, he then just leaves the remainder of the larvae on the ground and doesn't use them, when he should be then turning those into lings and roaches. Don't just leave the larva there because you're out of one key resource. Use the rest of the resources. And if you feel like you don't have enough larvae, use the extra money to just make more hatches. He is expanding again, which is great, going to 5 base now. The Mutaball has gotten a little out of control here. The Terran just can't seem to deal with this. He should have been able to do a lot more damage here with the Thors. He happened to be moving them out at the time that he came in the back door. It was just a really unfortunate piece of timing for the Terran there. But at this point, given the damage you've done, the Terran now has to be thinking, I've got to all in. I've got to do something about this. So what is available on the ground at the moment? That's all that's actually available on the ground in terms of defense. These have not become Broodlords yet, and the tech isn't actually done. What if the Terran were to push right this moment? He's got a bunch of Thors out, 6 Thors out. He's got a bunch of tanks. He doesn't have as many Marines as he would like to have right now. He should have been producing those constantly, but he didn't. And but this is still a scary army. The Hellions are going to get rid of a lot of lings. There's not enough of those either. The tanks are certainly going to deal with that roach force, and the Thors make it very hard for these mutas to engage into this. If it wasn't for the saving grace of these Broodlords, this could actually be a dangerous push, despite the fact that the Zerg is basically 80 supply ahead and has completely destroyed the Terran economy. Look at how close this ends up actually being, given that this should have been a completely overwhelming one game. He does ultimately win, largely on the back of these Broodlords, cleaning up the tanks, but you can see of that entire ground army that was there, only 3 roaches remain, and 5 Zerglings kind of scattered over the place. The Mutaball has been reduced to only 10, which is now no longer has any offensive capability. So it was the Broodlords. I mean, definitely don't discount those. That's what he spent all the money on. He could have spent it on something else. But be aware that when you are making those big pushes in, that you are already defended at home. If the Terran had simply reacted to seeing that Mutaball come in with, screw it, I gotta go, and just pushed out, it would have been too early for those Broodlords to actually come out, and you would have just been stuck with a bunch of Corruptors in the air. Given the massive size of the economy, he probably would have been able to recover anyway. He could have made enough roaches to remax and everything like that. But there are cases where you will think, okay, I've just won this game. And then the last push by the opposition's army will completely walk over you, because what you built were a lot of harassment units and not enough core army actually defending yourself, so that when that all-in comes, it just turns into a big base race, and there's not a lot you can do about it. So those were really the keys to this. One was the early scouting. Make sure that you do know what's going on. There was an overlord here the entire game that could have poked in to see that there were 3 factories, and you would know the exact composition of tanks and Thors that it was going to be. Number 2, hit those Larvae Injects, sync them up so that you don't forget them and don't leave Larvae on the ground. And number 3, make sure that you are defended when you're going in for harassment attacks. You may get countered.